And action. Welcome to another action-packed podcast. We are on episode 71 today, and we were able to squeeze in the sneak preview of Gran Turismo. So that's our number one film we'll be going over. Second film we'll be talking about is Voyage of the Demeter, which is the
last voyage of the Demeter.
Last voyage of the Demeter.
They had no more voyages after this movie.
No, they did not. And
the
Dracula origin story. Next, we have Heart of Stone, which is on Netflix, starring Gal Gadot. Right. And then lastly, there was another Netflix film called River Wild, starring Leighton, Meester, and Adam Brody. So we'll be reviewing that. And then after that, we'll talk about our best films of 2023 so far. So with that, Pete, let's get into Gran Turismo. Let's hear your feelings.
Gran Turismo, I got to be honest, there's just not a lot of marketing behind this film. There's not a lot of hype about this film, and I feel like that's a real problem because this movie was a good, solid movie. It was exciting. It's a biopic, which is something that I don't think I anticipated when I first got into wanting to see this film. I didn't realize it was almost like Air, but with video games and race car driving. It was great to see somebody like Orlando Bloom back on the screen again. I think that the star of this film is David Harbour. This guy, he comes into this film and I believed every second of everything that he did in this film, and based on what we've seen so far out of this year of film, I mean, I know that there's a lot of independent films that the Academy would give supporting acting nominations to, but what David Harbour does in this film is, I mean, you can't even touch it. Like, he's next level amazing actor.
Yeah, for sure.
And this kid, Archie Madikwe, and if I'm butchering his name, I'm so sorry. Like, he's really innocent and in his performance. But the way that he's able to kind of overcome things and triumph in the end is something very difficult to sort of portray in your acting. And I thought that he did really, really well. And I thought that in a tiny way, Jimon Hounsou of Paws of Fury fame, as the father who doesn't believe in the son, he's always great. So yeah, I enjoyed this film. I thought that there were some very great visual elements of this film. As you're watching it, it's like, am I watching a film? Am I watching a video game in real time? Like, they really do kind of combine the two mediums, and really, really make it beautifully well done. I enjoyed this film. I thought it was 50 times higher than what I expected when I first started. I thought it was going to be Fast and the Furious again. Like, I really went into this.
Or like Sylvester Stallone, like Driven, which was an okay movie. Like, it's entertaining. You'll enjoy it, but it's not like revolutionary or anything. But I think definitely the best part of this film was the fact that it was a real story. And again, I know it says it even right behind me.
I didn't even know. I didn't know it was a real story.
I didn't really do any prep work on this movie going into it, which I don't typically like to do, just because I'm okay with learning on the spot. Obviously I knew it was about the game. Big fan of the game growing up. It's definitely one of the best driving simulators, if not the best driving simulator of all time. And so I was definitely just curious on seeing what they were going to do with it. Especially lately, I feel Hollywood has started to figure out a lot of these video games into films. We've seen many other films this year already become successful. Super Mario Brothers definitely is the first one that jumps out of my head.
Right, but the added difference between this film and other video game movies is that this is not only based on a true story, but this is something that is absolutely incredible. Like, Mario Brothers wasn't a real life thing that people were competing towards and trying to be professional at, right?
Yeah.
Like this is like a next level. Here's what we can do with video game properties.
Yeah.
Even if this was not a true story, I think the way this story was laid out was brilliant and
Yeah.
was in captivating and engaging. And
Well, it's
the
legit.
fact that it was a true story was one of the bigger selling points for me at this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's a legit sports movie. And so I think, again, it's not necessarily marketed that way because Gran Turismo is a video game movie, but this is like, throw that aside. That's really just the premise of the movie versus like the movie itself is a racing movie. It's a sports movie. And I think that's where this movie has a chance because with this sneak preview, and which was apparently due to the strike that's happening, but this will give it a chance to give it a little bit of buzz now going into its actual release, which is August 25th, I believe. And so
next week.
It will have a chance to kind of make up for the lack of marketing, to your point.
I hope so, because this movie absolutely deserves viewers. This movie deserves people being in the seats in the theaters themselves, because this is not Super Mario Brothers. This is not The Legend of Zelda or any video game trying to make a realistic representation of a video game. This is a real life story that is actually really, really well put together. This is, I mean, dare I say, this is almost a very much a Rudy story kind of thrown into this sort of racing world.
To the point that you're making, I feel like this film, I think the more frustrating part for me of this film, I believe everything you're saying, and you're right. Go see this. It's a very good film. I felt this film had the potential to be an elite sports film. I think it had all the ingredients it needed to. And kind of what I said in one of my short videos was I just feel like it was lacking this kind of cohesive magic. And you see it with really great films that, again, you're talking about the elite level films where it's like the music is elevating everything, the editing, all of it combined together. It's all just, and you have like incredible feelings walking
that. I could see that. And there is that element that makes a film one of the best you've ever seen versus something that is just really, really good. Mm-hmm. And I will agree with you that there is a little piece of magic, as you say, that it is lacking. However, despite not having that magical piece, great film. Great film.
I definitely.
But you're right. This could have been absolutely elevated into the Rudies and the Field of Dreams in terms of sports movies, had it had a little bit of magic to it. Which, you're absolutely right.
That's where roles like music supervisor and even go ahead.
But with the music supervisor, I mean, I thought that was a really funny, charming element where the main guy, Archie, was playing all of those like really funny.
Like, no, that part.
And Kenny G, and
that part's cool. Yeah.
When he was in that zone, and everyone around him was like, "What are you doing? We're about to, we got a race right now. Like, what are you doing?" And he's like listening to Enya. I thought that was hilarious, and that's music supervision.
Yeah. Like the best example I could use, especially because it's really recent in my head, is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where again, all of a sudden they drop No Diggity, and then it's again the way it's exactly edited perfectly to the song, and again you just get these chills because it's like, oh shit, here we go, it's about to go down, and you never quite
the scene is elevated.
Now I like some of that things you're talking about. Like it wasn't. I'm not saying the music supervising was terrible in this at all. I'm not.
You should be fired.
I wish this had a couple, like 2 or 3 more songs that are just like dropping hammers, because I felt like it was ready for the knockout blow, and it just was like, so close, But again, at the end of the day, go see this August 25th.
Great film.
Very good sports film. So check it out. Next film that we have is The Last Voyage of the Demeter, and I'll go first on this one, Pete.
Sure.
So this one, I would say, definitely kind of, out outdid my expectations again. Again, I think going in this week, none of us were extremely excited to watch all these films. I'd probably
We're
put
getting to that point of the year, right? Like after the
yeah,
summer and before the holiday season, where the studios just kind of throw all of their movies that they didn't want to really promote, right? So these are all hit or miss.
yeah. And I would probably even say Gran Turismo, or I'm sorry, Heart of Stone was maybe my number one going into it, just because it's, you know, it's action film, it's Netflix, they've been spending a lot of money, and Gal Gadot, like, okay, this could be cool. But Voyage of the Meter, man, I like how it's done. You know, sometimes the trailer kind of made it look like it's just a kind of a pure, almost horror film, and it's really not. I think that's again a misrepresentation of what this film really is. This is a, you know, historical.
Yeah, it's a
It's,
period piece for
it's a
sure.
period piece. It's obviously this is Dracula and the origins of Dracula, and you know, and so they did again, like the production design I thought was pretty good, and like it was really kind of entertaining, you know, to kind of see this story unfold, and like what's happening, why, all that good stuff, because obviously when you're already dealing with a character that you're familiar with, you know, there's some things you already know, but you just don't know how it's going to kind of happen. And so that's kind of what this film is, a little bit more of a, I don't want to say a mystery, because it's not, obviously it's not a mystery, but you're still kind of going along with the characters, kind of figure out like what's happening on this ship. And so um uh you know, I think the only real issue I had with this film was I just didn't think it was tough enough. Like you know, but at the end of the day, it's like I kind of know what I'm watching, and I think it worked. I think again for this story, again, it's like I saw a review that they called this the Rogue One of Dracula,
Stop
and
that.
I
Stop
it's
it. There's just no way. There's
this
no
is
way.
not this is not that.
Rogue One, when Rogue One came out, let's put this into some real historical context. When Rogue One came out, nobody thought that it was going to even be what that movie was, which was revolutionary in like the Star Wars universe. The Rogue
yeah,
One came out and you're like, "Oh my God, here's some real potential for this
yeah,
already amazing IP."
yeah,
This movie is not that. Now, there's some real positives of this film. One of them being Corey Hawkins, who plays the Doctor.
yeah,
Like his character and his performance is the highlight of this film.
sure.
Liam Cunningham, who plays the captain, is always solid. Like this is an actor. If you don't know who he is, look him up because
Titanic captain, right?
he comes in. No, he's not the Titanic captain. But this guy comes into every role and just delivers everything about it. And yes, this period piece was really well done. The premise behind it being this tiny piece of the Bram Stoker's Dracula that we've all seen with Keanu Reeves and Gary Oldman and Winona Ryder. And for me, it's up there with a lot of my favorite movies. I could put it in my top 100 films of all time because I thought it was that good. This is taking a snippet, like a minute sequence from that movie and turning it into an actual movie. And the premise behind it is legitimate for a movie. I think where this film sort of falls away from making it a really great film is that Dracula, his terror and the thing that makes him as a character very scary is the fact that he can be human and you don't know who he is. And the fact that Dracula in this movie was always a creature and was always sort of lurking, it sort of took away a lot of that fear that could have been in this movie that you got with Bram Stoker's Dracula and any other iteration of Dracula, even the old Draculas from like the 30s and whatever. There was a human element that made it even more scary, right?
Yeah,
This didn't have that at all. However, it was really well done. It was well shot. I thought the music was intense. The acting is really good.
yeah.
It's a good watch. I just think it just could have done something a little bit more
Yep, I agree 100%.
to really be incredible.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Awesome. So next we have Netflix Heart of Stone, and again stars Gal Gadot uh, and
Who's
James
kind of cute,
Gordon. Yeah, a little bit.
just a
Uh,
little bit.
so this is kind of a film that I tend to judge streaming films slightly different than theater films because again, it's kind of what you're paying for. You pay
I did
monthly
in the
versus
theater. Yeah,
yeah. So I kind of rate them a little bit differently, and I kind of the theme of I think this week is movie's okay. It's worth seeing. Like I enjoyed watching it. Like I wasn't angry that I watched it, but at the same time, it just didn't really have a lot of magic
right.
to it. There's obviously pretty zero character development. I did like the AI kind of like how they using AI to kind of it's kind of a poor man's Mission Impossible. Um,
Sure.
and so that part was kind of cool how they used the AI to do it. But yeah, it just lacked a little oomph to it. And
There was something that it just missed. It was almost like somebody was sitting there and like said, "What if we took Wonder Woman and made her an agent of
yeah,
some government
it didn't have
and
soul. It didn't have any
let's
soul.
let's throw some AI in there and make it kind of complex to make you think it's
Yeah,
more interesting," which it did in a
yeah,
sense, right? Like there were things about it that kind of kept you enthralled through the film, and the action sequences were good. I mean, even the stunts were fine, the performances were fine, but yeah, there was just something that was just missed
yeah.
out of this. It's a fine watch. Like
Fine.
you're going to be fine watching it on Netflix, and it'll be good. And she's always good because it's kind of
Yeah,
her thing, right? Like
yeah,
action and being cute,
yeah,
and there was some humor in it as well. And she showed a lot of humor in it, which I thought was, I don't think I've really actually really seen that, because she did Death of the Nile, which there was no real humor in that. And even Wonder Woman, I mean, there's moments, but
yeah.
there was some humor in here. So I look forward to seeing her in more comedic roles if people are willing to do that in a film.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, like I said, you pretty much nailed it. It just needs. I think it needs passion and heart. I think I don't know too much in depth, but just shooting from the hip, feel like the writer and the director probably this is not necessarily a passion project. This
Right.
is this is something maybe. Hey, this is the like you're saying. This is the formula we want. Stir it together and make a film. And
It's it's
I don't
almost Netflix versus Apple, right? Like if Netflix only put out content that was really good all the time, like Apple, um, then this movie could have been something better, because there would have been a little bit more development time in the story, in the character development, and really kind of making it a determination on how should we really make this story kind of translate. Apple does a beautiful job of only putting out content every 2 or 3 months, and there's a reason for that, because you can tell when you watch one of Apple's movies. We're not being sponsored by it, but at the same time, there's value in each of these films that we've seen so far from Apple versus Netflix that just decides they want to just throw stuff out there. But whatever, I'm just a guy.
yeah, but yeah. So kind of watch it. Like I said, it's a solid streaming film. Go check it out.
Solid.
Obviously, if you already have Netflix, I would say definitely watch it. And it might even be kid appropriate.
I mean, if you're okay with violence,
Yeah,
then
it's
yeah.
PG-13, so and it's not gory violence. So
No, not gory violence, no nudity or
yeah,
ton of bad language, but
I don't think the language was even that bad, but
no, nothing worse than I've done in front of my kids.
exactly. So lastly, we have also on Netflix River Wild. So I had a little gap in time and I wasn't sure if it was a new movie or not because I didn't really hear much about it, but it was on, Netflix's top 10 movie list. And so I was like, you know what? And started Leighton Meester, Adam Brody. And I was like, okay, I'll check it out. Taron Killiam's also in this one. And it's about river rafting and ultimately it's
Is
What?
this the boyfriend and the girl are together, but the ex-boyfriend is there and he harbors some sort of like
No, 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 no. I don't want to give anything away because I mean it's not necessarily spoiler, but I let me put it this way: I didn't really know much about it. Read the description. Descriptions ultimately it's about like a family. Two of them work for a river rafting company. The one of them's a doctor that comes to join them, to get away, and the trip kind of goes awry. And it's just one of those kind of like, what would you do? You're the whole time you're like, what would you do in this scenario? And it's a very
nature and
plausible,
shit hits the fan. Like, what are you gonna do?
yeah, and
Yeah,
it's a very plausible story. I
those are
thought it
fun.
worked. I thought the filming of it actually looked pretty good. It didn't look like a green screen, terrible rafting film. It looked pretty solid. Again, I would have to really analyze it to figure out how they shot it. I mean, but some of it looks like they're on the river and doing stuff. And so it was a good ride, man. It was a good ride. I enjoyed it. I don't think it was super long either. I think it was only like an hour and a half, which I thought was like perfect.
Which is
And
beautiful.
yeah, and so I definitely think it's worth watching. I enjoyed it more than Heart of Stone. So that should tell you,
Really?
yeah, because like I said, I
Okay.
love nature. I love nature. And again, I thought it was well done enough that it was just like I'm in this journey, and I think when you're talking about genres, it's definitely a genre film. But I thought this is like a perfect genre film because if you like this, you like this. Like this is a good for your appetite, and I loved it. Well shot.
That's interesting because yeah, no, I didn't get to see this film, but I heard about it and any of that in nature and survival kind of film
I
is
usually, yeah.
is and if it's better than Heart of Stone, then I'll certainly enjoy it.
Yeah, and again, this is a film thought was well budgeted, and again, it does what it does, you know.
Right.
So
Well, good.
awesome.
I can't wait to see it.
Yeah. So with that, Pete, let's get into our top 10 list best movies of 2023. We're just going to each give our 6 through 10, and then we'll go back and forth 5 through 1. So
Sounds
go ahead and start.
I'm first. Yay. Okay. Number 10 for me, I've got to give love to the best comedy of the year. Might not be in anybody's top 10. It's Joyride. I was completely blown away by this film. I was blown away by the performances, the comedy, the risque aspect of this film, and the fact that it was put out in a year where there just doesn't seem to be any comedy at all, give or take a couple of instances. This movie came in and just blew my mind and was funny and well produced and well directed, and it was gorgeous. That's my number 10. I had to give it love. Number 9, because I couldn't keep it off the list, was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. It might seem kind of low to people, but there's so many films this year as I look back that deserve more recognition than that. So that's my number 9. Same with number 8 for me, Creed 3, which in any other given year would have been a top 5 film for me. And this one was brilliant. And I thought that the way they've continued this IP without Sylvester Stallone, I think was brilliant. There's real importance in Creed 3 in the overall Sylvester Stallone Rocky universe. The fact that Creed 3 was made and the way it was done is a revolution within that IP. It's an important film, and it happens to just be number 8 for me. Number 7 for me is Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. It could be very easily a top 3 film in any other year, but again, I mean, this year is stacked. And number 6 for me is a film that is just not getting any love, at least not on the onset, but because of outrage and uprising has gotten a lot more attention, and that's The Sound of Freedom is number 6 in my top 10 list. My top 5, stay tuned, is Killer.
Nice, nice. Yeah, I'm still debating right now on my number 10.
My 6, you can't compete. It's
I
good.
know.
Good.
Uh, I'm just gonna make the call because I didn't write it initially, but I'm gonna leave off Sound of Freedom. But I'm
Ooh,
gonna keep my number 10, which is John Wick 4. Um, John Wick. Like I know. Let me put it this way: I know which movie I'm gonna watch 20 times, and I know which movie I'm not gonna watch 20 times. And John Wick 4, I know I'm gonna watch over and over and over again. I love John Wick, so like for me, a lot of filmmaking is like, do I want to watch it again? Like, cool. It's great to have a movie that you watch one time and it's so impactful, but at the same time, like, how impactful is it if you never watch it again? And John Wick 4, I know I'm going to watch again. You get my number 10 spot. Great job. Creed 3, number 9 for this, everything you're saying. I've already watched it 5 times this year. I bought it.
yep.
What are we talking about here? That's exactly what makes a good film. And uh,
Surprised you put it at 9. I thought you would have had it higher. I thought differently of you.
yeah, only because I think these other ones, like I think for Creed 3, I loved Creed 2 so much. So just because it wasn't quite as, I didn't like it quite as much as Creed 2, it just has a weird place in my heart. But I just watched it the other day and I'm like, man, this is really good. Like it's got that Dr. Dre kind of beat in it too. And it's like, it's good. It's really good. And I think it's one of the films that's going to keep growing on me even more and more. Because again, I'm going to keep watching. I might even watch it on the flight today. Who knows?
Right.
Number 8. These next 3, I can easily switch these all around. I'm just going to put them how I put them. But number 8, I'm going to go Barbie, and only because I need to see it again. I really enjoyed it, and I think it's great. I really just want to watch it again. But these other films I've watched more than once, and that's kind of giving them a leg up. Number 7, Kandahar. I just watched that one again, and I love those type of films, military survival,
Right.
like I'm all in. Gerard Butler, go. Number 6 is the Flash, and again, I just loved Michael Keaton in that and how they tied in the different universes. I know it's not a perfect film, but again, I bought it and I'm going to watch it again. Actually, that's what I'm going to watch today on the flight. But I just love how they were able to tie in everything and make it such a compelling story. It worked for me. I know a lot of people aren't going to like it. I don't care. This is my list, not yours.
Yeah.
Number
Yeah.
five. Okay, so now we're in our top 5. I'll go 5 first, and then we'll rotate.
Throwing some stuff in there that is quite interesting. Like, and that's the great thing about film, right? Is
Yeah,
because you can completely objective ideas about it. But that's what we love. We love to hear about what is most important and what is the most impactful for you personally, because that's what makes everything so great.
yeah,
Ours, oh, different. It's crazy.
yeah,
Top, it's completely different.
yeah. I know.
Since you're on a roll, let's hear your 5.
Okay, so this one is going to be controversial, and again, I think it's because I just haven't seen it twice yet, and I know this is already going to be highest on your list. If this might be your number 1, but it's going to be Oppenheimer, and I think again, this is a great film. I need to watch it again. You've watched it twice, but I just haven't seen it twice. All the other films I've seen more than once. I haven't seen this one twice yet. And I just haven't had the 3 hours it takes to go see it again. This is probably, if at the end of the year, this might be higher. I can almost guarantee it'll be higher. But as of now, it's going to be my number 5. And again, I know I'm going to take some flack for that.
Get plenty.
It'll be rectified, I think, once I watch it more. I just need to watch it more.
After a year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, this movie is going to continue to grow
I
on
agree.
your but it's totally fair to put it where you put it because that's kind of how you feel things are. My number 5 is Air, and I know that you're super high on this movie, and I am as well. I think the thing that kind of hurts this movie is that it came out so early in the year.
Yeah, you got
Uh,
recency bias.
but you can't deny the performances, you can't deny the writing, you can't deny the story itself.
And I'm going by feelings, how I felt after I watched it in the theater. I watched this 3 times, I think, in the theater.
This is an incredible film, and it was a long time coming, from what I understand. There was a many years of development in this film and trying to get this film made. And this is a beautifully made film. This is number 5 for me, 100%.
Yeah.
Number 4 for me is Mission Impossible. This movie was everything that I wanted in a Mission Impossible movie times 10. This is my number 2 Mission Impossible of all time, outside of the first one, because it was so revolutionary. But this one just exceeded expectation, and everything that Tom Cruise does with Mission Impossible and with a Top Gun movie is his heart and soul, and it is translated every time into these films. This is one of the best movies I think I've seen in quite some time. Number 4.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely one of the best action films, if not the best action film. Pure action film, it's the best. I have it the same, number 4. I want to rate it higher, but I'm going to give reasons why I have the other 3 higher. But if you're talking, I did see it multiple times in the theater. I thought the sound was amazing in the theater. I actually felt like I watched it in 4D, and it wasn't. But it was incredible. My number 3, and this is where I'm going to shake it up. Again, I'm going with feeling. So this is the film that I was the most emotional coming out of. This is a film that really was, I think, the most powerful film of the year. But it's The Good Person, and that was with Florence Pugh and Morgan Freeman. I don't know if you ever got a chance to see it yet.
I haven't seen this film, but the impact that it had on you terrifies me.
Yeah.
Like, I want to see it because I don't know if I really feel like I want to be thrown into that at this point.
Yeah, and obviously, like I mentioned in the original podcast, check it out for my full review. But it just spoke home. We obviously experienced stuff early in the year, and yeah, it really kind of connects to that and that experience that they're dealing with in the film. It really kind of hit home. And so, and again, it's just really well done. Obviously, Morgan Freeman, Florence Pugh are, 2 excellent actors. So I thought it's a really, really well done. So that's my number 3.
Go in and crush. Yeah. My number 3 of the year was Barbie. And I never thought I would say that. However, it's not a comedy like Joyride. And it's not a drama. And it's not, I mean, this is a very unique movie, and bias aside, because again, I worked for Mattel, I worked for the Barbie brand specifically. I don't have any loyalty to this film. However, what they were able to do with this idea of Barbie and to make an understanding that it's okay to be a queen without a king is valuable to your daughters, and it's valuable to women in general. And then what this movie does at the same time as women empowerment, it talks about what it means to be a man at the same time. And this is not a male bashing movie based on what I've heard from people talking about this film. There's nothing negative about males in this film. I thought that this was brilliant. I thought that the director did an incredible job. Set in costumes, music. I think if the Academy was smart, Ryan Gosling gets a Best Supporting Actor nomination for this film.
I would not be surprised if any of this film gets nominated. Best Picture,
this movie deserves all of it. It's a
Best Director. I think Greta is going to get Best Director. It's the best female directed film of all time.
Yeah. And it just passed $1 billion worldwide. Like, how could you go wrong with a film of that importance and of that magnitude? Number 3.
And it's because it's a good film. This isn't, I put it on the level of Titanic in terms of people are seeing it over and over and over again. They're having experiences to go see it. They're dressing up. Again, it's not Titanic. I understand what I'm trying to say is, but back in the day when people went to go see Titanic, people saw it over and over and over again, especially women. And Barbie's doing the same thing. I just see constantly on Instagram groups of women going out with daughters, with friends, going to see this.
I saw this in Italy this summer, and there were many Italians, in male and female, just all in pink, just going bananas. The brilliance of this film is the fact that Mattel greenlit this film to begin with, because it really does take the idea of what Mattel as a corporation used to be and played off of that, as opposed to being defensive about it. Like, they really owned it and said, look, yeah, I get it. That was us. And now here's who we are. really well done, beautifully written. I mean, it just takes a lot to make a movie like this.
Yeah.
It's so easy as people think. This movie specifically took a lot of effort, and well done.
You could probably guess my next two at this point. But my number two is The Covenant. For everything I've talked about, I think again when you're talking about military films, and again this one was a deeper military film because it's also, it's about sacrifice and again what other people also do to help our country. It's not, in that kind of collaboration. This one specifically talking about Afghanistan translators, but this was just a really powerful film, really well directed by Guy Ritchie. Not his typical type of a film, but he's really showing range directing wise. And I really hope he gets a best director nod because I thought this film was as good as you're going to get in this genre. And again, I've watched it 3 times I think now. I bought it and I'm going to keep watching it. I'll watch it at least another 2 or 3 times this year because it's just a movie I enjoy the journey on so much.
What's your number two?
That was my number two, and then my number one I've already kind of spoiler kind of earlier, but it's Air. I don't want to venture from it because I still feel kind of the same way. I think it's the most popular or perfect film when it comes to all the elements, meaning rewatchability, writing, directing, acting, incredible acting, style, production design, editing, music. Like you're literally talking about a perfectly crafted film that also was popular. Like you don't get many films like this. This isn't one of these Oscar films that none of the fans don't like. Like the fans love this film, critics love this film. Ben Affleck deserves an Oscar. So
You've been high on this movie since even before it came out, and you're not wrong. This is an incredible film. It is one of the best of this of the year. Here's where we differ. My number two of
I'm right,
this,
you're wrong. But go ahead. Besides that,
here's what the best two films of this year are. Number two is John Wick 4, and
what?
because it's difficult enough to make a second movie and even a third movie, but to be able to make a fourth movie and have it be as impactful as this movie was in terms of reinventing kind of the style of the film, making it a very video game-esque performance,
Yeah.
and being able to continue a story to this degree and have the action and the comedy and the performances be as incredible as they were. This was the perfect ending to a 4 series movie that I think I've ever seen.
Well, spoiler, there might be a fifth one, but
There might be a fifth, of course, but as of this broadcast, this fourth film.
as this broadcast, they're working on a 5.
I said this on an original review of this film. This was a beautifully well done film, and it's not. I'm trying to think of a comp where like there's just all action all the time, but there's no substance. Like since the first film, there's been substance in these John Wick movies, and to be able to carry that through 4 films and have the fourth one be, if not better than the first one, arguably, I think it is. I think this is the best film I think I've seen of the John Wick series, and it is number 2 on my list. It was, I was blown away by this film when it came.
My only issue with the film was the length. I just felt like everything could have been.
I didn't have a problem with one.
I don't need 3 hours of John Wick.
But yeah, I didn't have a problem with my number one.
Solid 2.5.
My number one, I didn't have a problem with the length at all. And it was my number one most anticipated movie of the year. You called it. This was Oppenheimer. This is a movie that, again, after 1 year from now, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line, this is going to be the film that people talk about when they talk about Christopher Nolan. As groundbreaking and as important as The Dark Knight is in terms of script writing and performance and shots, cinematography, as beautiful as Dark Knight is, 9.9 as a perfect movie, Oppenheimer just gets that 0.01%. I mean, it's a 10. This is Christopher Nolan's baby. This is his Godfather. This is what he's going to be remembered by. The performances are next level. Every actor in here, whether they're the main characters like Robert Downey Jr. or whether they're Rami Malek, who has 2 scenes in the entire movie, they come in and they just crush. It's the best film of the year. If you don't think so, you don't know what filmmaking is.
Yeah, like I said, I don't disagree with you. It is an incredibly crafted film. I think, again, when I watch it again, I'll be able to move it up the list more and more. But until then, it'll stay low on mine. But yeah, great list, Pete. I think a lot of people are, again, that's what makes movies so great. These are people have different opinions on what makes them tick, and obviously, I know I tick a certain way, different than you. You tick, so yeah. So with that, Pete, we got a couple films coming next week. The main one being Strays, which comes out August 18th, among other films. And Rocky 4 will be coming out as well. And make sure you like, subscribe, and share. Help us grow, people. Please comment. We want to hear your opinions. I know a couple people have been commenting, so we appreciate you guys making those comments. So keep it up. We love discussing films. We love talking to them. And yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah. So with that, Pete, that is a cut. Thanks, guys.